This is member-supported KUNV HD2 Las Vegas, the broadcast service of UNLV. Robert Cochran joining you as we do every Tuesday afternoon from 4 to 5 p.m. This is Nobody Knows Hollywood. Thanks so much for being with us today in studio. Very happy to have two good friends and two members of the working community here in Las Vegas in the entertainment industry. Keith Lyle, who was, we heard his voice last week on the show. Keith, welcome. And Phil, oops, sorry, let's try that again. Now say hello.
Thank you very much, Robert.
Helps to have your lineup. These are the technical details. Yeah. And over to his side, that's Phil Valentine. Phil, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me here.
Excellent. If we have any luck, I'm also listening to us right now, should be Jeremy Settles. Jeremy, you there?
That's correct.
Very good. We're 3 for 3. Yes, I can, buddy. Thanks so much. Okay, so quick introductions. Keith Lyle is by trade an actor and a comic, and his most noteworthy credit, the one that people know him widely from, is in The Hangover. He was the blackjack dealer. One of the few of us Las Vegans to get a great part in something, so we're thankful for his experience. And it went beyond just shooting here. He went back to L.A. and did some things.
Yeah,
maybe we talk about that.
Work.
Phil is a fellow actor and filmmaker and
casting director.
And now casting director. One-time agent, is that correct?
Well, yes, I was. I was an agent for a couple of years.
Excellent. And so we're gonna really dig into that too, which we're looking for that perspective. Thank you so much. And joining us on the phone is Jeremy Settles. Jeremy is a crew guru. He is a producer first and foremost at this point. He's done everything from the behind the camera side of things. And Jeremy, again, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.
And Jeremy's owner of Got Films. Your company, Phil?
Valentine Independent Productions.
Very good. And then Keith, you're doing stand-up. You got a show coming up. We'll plug that later on.
No problem.
Sounds good. All right. So where we went last week, we had Mary LaFrance on, and Mary is an entertainment professor here at UNLV. She is in the law field, of course, and an entertainment specialist in that regard. We dove into the idea of regulation of talent agencies, and this is not a new thing here in Las Vegas. It's been brought up before, and as I brought up last week, I spearheaded the efforts back in 2005 to try to get regulation, seeing what I felt were a number of problems with the way the entertainment industry runs here in town, and it wasn't to solely, nor is it now when I speak about it, to solely point a finger at the talent agencies to say, they're bad, and I want them to be taken care of. That's not my perspective. It's that the ones who are doing things incorrectly are dragging down the entire industry, frankly. And they're not the only ones, but as I discussed, and I think as we came to a conclusion last week with Mary, it seems like a fairly simple thing to do. Nothing simple in the world of law and regulation, of course, but relatively speaking, regulating talent agencies because there is nothing on the book, because this is a growing business, because there are the number of complaints and difficulties there are from both sides, that it just seems like something that the best talent agencies and the best actors and anybody interested in growing the Las Vegas entertainment scene and its reputation would want to have happen. Phil, let me go to you with that first. What do you think about that kind of thesis, that overview? Any thoughts?
I actually think it would work for everyone's benefit. And I've tried for years, when I first became an agent. As an actor, I knew that the agencies in this town shared talent. And when I met the new SAG rep for Las Vegas, his name is Steve Clinton, great guy. As an agent, I wanted to be a good agent. I had never been an agent. I had only been an actor. I had struggled with the same things that all actors do with some of the agencies and not being able to get enough work, or not knowing, or one actor seemingly getting paid more than another actor, and I was very confused about that. So I wanted to be a good agent. So I talked to Steve Clinton. He had told me, because he was brand new as the SAG agent in Las Vegas, and he said, I represent San Diego and Las Vegas. 95% of my work comes out of San Diego. 95% of my problems come out of Las Vegas. And I said, why is that? And he said, because you're all sharing the same talent pool. I've never met such a batch of backstabbing, bad-mouthing agents. The agents don't work together here, and that's because they're all sharing the same talent. I would love it if they could all go exclusive. Now, I understand, without there being a lot of work, that maybe you can't necessarily all go exclusive. I understand that, but you should all be able to work together, or it would be nice if you could all work together. I called all of the agencies and I said, let's have lunch. I'll pay for lunch. Let's all go to lunch. Let's talk about this. Let's see if there's a way where we can all work together. With the exception of Linda Lang, nobody wanted to go to lunch. So I learned pretty early on that I was going to be out there by myself, like everyone else, struggling, trying to find work for the actors that I had in my database. I wasn't all that thrilled being an agent. You know, I loved representing the actors and stuff, but it was a constant struggle and an argument with a lot. I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of the other agencies constantly going, I sent that person on that audition, I called that person first, blah, 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 and that happened all the time. And then when it came down to paying an actor, one agency would quote one price, another agency would quote another price. I couldn't understand that. Now I'm looking at it going, I'm looking at the client's contract, and they're saying we're paying this actor this much money. So is the client paying different agencies different amounts? Well, I found out that wasn't true. It was different agencies quoting different amounts to different actors. That was disturbing to me because as an actor, I was like, wait a minute, isn't this a contract between the client and me? I mean, shouldn't I be privy to how much the client is paying for me? Is this an odd concept?
You bring up a lot of good points. I want to hit on that last one there, though, before it gets away, which is the nature of the relationship between the actor and the agent and the production company. That one of the things that seems to fit that 95% and 5% upside down ratio that you bring forward is the idea that the agents here unabashedly say, and I've had them say this directly to me, oh, I'm here to serve the production company. They're more worried about their relationship with the production company as opposed to when I worked out in Los Angeles where you'd book a gig and then your agent would try to, get as much money as he or she could for you. So the idea of different actors getting paid is not wrong. However, there should have been a baseline we should have been starting from rather than agents cutting different amounts based on not having done anything other than deciding, as was quoted to me by one agent at one point, well, I have to pay the light bill this month. Mm-hmm. And for some reason that came out of my check. Let me throw this over to Jeremy real quick because he comes from a different side. Jeremy, how do you see this, the talent agent problem? And again, not solely putting it on them, but how does it affect your side of business as a producer here in town? What have you seen problematically about this relationship problem?
Well, my first issue, actually a long time ago, I started as an extra in the business. I worked on Honey Blue the Kid, and I worked on the Stephen King series called The Stand.
The Stand. That was a while ago, yes.
Yeah, that's right. I started there, and then I first found out, learning about what people get paid and everything else, and there's a certain fee that the production company will pay. They have a certain fee and a budget for union and a certain budget for non-union. And it depends on if you're SAG or a non-union member. But the point is, they say one thing, you're going to get paid this much money, and come to find out sometimes your rate was under negotiated, or they're taking a 50% profit. And I was out there, 15 hours a day or a long time, and I'm out there in the field working, doing that, and just seeing my point of view is not getting paid a value that I'm worth on set, and then finding out that the production company was paying the certain rates that were applied to it, and they're also paying a certain fee as a casting rep or a casting coordinator, a certain fee as a day rate.
Okay, so are you talking about the agencies actually casting as well? Because that's a different kind of conflict of interest we haven't gotten into yet, but is that what you're speaking to there?
Yeah.
So doing both?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just coming from the producer point of view. This is what I see. I don't really know the rules and regulations of the talent.
But you work with the MTVs, the Spikes, the History Channels that come into town. What sort of things do you hear from these producers in terms of trying to cast local talent?
They just don't do it. They've done it before in the past, and then you have the issues of who's Cutthroat Island in Vegas and who's trying to compete with the next. I get the same issues in a production company. You know, there's a production company that's bad-mouthing my production company for doing a great service, and so we have the same kind of issues in production ownership of a production company and also the talent agencies too. So the main clients really don't like that hassle of doing it right off the bat, and they call one company or one casting agency and they're bad-mouthing other people, and they're not really used to that.
So this gets back to what Phil was saying earlier, that because of the lack of the community here in general, and so again, as I said off the top, this is not just a talent agent problem. It's one thing we're looking at, but you see the same thing if these production companies come here and they want to do, I think as the Nevada Film Office tries to pitch, come here with just a toothbrush. They'd like that from a cost standpoint to come here that simply, but if they don't feel they can get what they need, they have to take care of their bottom line. Am I hearing that correctly?
You're exactly right, and you know, their job is to hire professional people, and the same element, you know, when they're hiring an actor, you know, they want to hire a professional, and it seems to be in this town that a lot of people are not professional, and including crew members too that are not professional, and they get stuck with a bad crew member, and then it reflects my company as a professional company trying to provide professional camera operators and crew and talent, you know, not talent, but you know,
services. But isn't, I mean, that's what unions are supposed to do. On the one hand, you're an IATSE member. And I know this is a right-to-work state, so there's a certain difficulty with that right away. But talent agencies, from our perspective, are supposed to do that too. They're supposed to be a filtering process that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, but that they basically, in my experience, they serve to not just sign up anybody off the street, but to look at people and say, I like you, here's why, no thank you, you're not right what I'm here for, rather than having this shotgun approach, I'll sign everybody, I'll send everybody and hope for the best, and we end up with the chaos. Keith, you've, like I said, mentioned you have that one particular big film under your belt. You heard things from the crew. What was your experience like on The Hangover in that regard?
It's funny. I distinctly remember speaking to one of the producers, Dan Goldberg, and I asked him how the production was going here in Las Vegas, and it was a chaotic production. They were shooting in the desert during the day, and then my scenes were at night. And he had said that he understands this was a particularly good production, but he had heard some bad things in the past with different actors or just production people. They brought in a lot of their own people from L.A. I also worked as a stand-in on Get 'Em to the Greek, and there were a few people, production assistants and stuff, I think maybe a gaffer or two that were worked on both. So they were using some local people to pick up along the way, but they bring the people they know that because they just don't want to deal with any hassles. After I got done filming The Hangover, I asked my agent at the time, and I said, you know, how come they don't do more stuff here? You know, it's a great background, and she mentioned because of just actor conflicts. It's just hard to find good talent. And when I look at commercials and I see the same couple guys, men and women, doing commercials for 4 different casinos, it's like, you know, there's supposed to be some kind of, you can't be in all the commercials for all the casinos. I mean, right. That doesn't look right. I'm watching one for Palms, and I'm watching one for Station Casinos. The same guy's in it. It's like, right. How could he be in 2 places at once?
And in most marketplaces, that's not the case, where they usually the agencies in working with production companies block that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
conflicts.
Phil, we seem like we're kind of in some ways at ground zero. How long have you been here in town now?
I've been in town for 17 years.
Okay, I've been here for 12. And I know my feeling when I came here was that this was a tremendous opportunity. Coming from Los Angeles, I said, wow, there's great stuff here, and this just felt like a super opportunity to build this thing. It wasn't long until I realized that narrative was kind of an old one, this promise of Hollywood East. What has been your experience like in regard to this romantic vision of making this a Hollywood East and the problems we've had along the way?
Well, we're very far away from being Hollywood East, and I'll tell you why. Actually, the best explanation is to explain how I became a casting director, because I never wanted to be a casting director. But I love being a casting director because, unlike being an agent, I really don't have to be nice to anybody. And it's not that I want to be mean to people, but I can be, because I can pretty much control certain things. When one of the production companies came to me when I was an agent, and I said, they had called and said they were looking for extras, which we get a lot of that. And I said, how come you're not casting principal roles? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, because I don't have time to audition 400 people when 380 of them can't act. So I said to him, I promise you I will not send you any bad actors. I went through the database at the agency. This was the Red Agency when Michelle and Kendra owned it. And I said, how many actors are in the database? And she said 330. And I said, wow. And at that point, I had been here like 10 years. I go, I don't really know if there's 330 great actors in Las Vegas. You obviously have all of them. So I sent an email out to all of them. And I said, I'm going to create a website with all your demo reels. Send me a demo reel. I got 3 demo reels out of 330 and about 300 emails saying, what's a demo reel? So now I knew where I was starting from. So my database of actors went from 330 to 3. I eventually built it up to 30, but those 30 people worked. So when I left the Red Agency after it changed hands, these production companies, because 99% of what I do is national commercials and TV shows. I don't do a lot of local stuff, but I do some. But the reason that I get the national stuff is because I still promise them I will not send you any bad actors. So every email I send to every agency has the same first paragraph, and I know the agencies get tired of hearing it, but it says, please confirm your talent before you submit them, which means you have to have spoken to them. They are good because everyone shares talent. Because what I did was I sent out my first audition. I had somebody like, Robert, you have a very good reputation as an actor in town. You could end up on 3 different lists. Well, that means no one called you. They put your name on a list first because they know that Robert's a good actor. He's probably going to get this part. Everybody wants him first. So, let me put his name on the list and then I'll call him. So they can't do that. Well, they still do it all the time. So I've slowly been dropping agencies off the list of agencies that I'll call because they won't play. But these are the rules that made Hollywood and New York successful. Mm-hmm. And I am begging these agencies to follow these guidelines because you will have less actors in your database. But I guarantee if you do it for a year, if you don't make the same money, you'll probably make more money. Because I can get production companies to come here if you don't send bad talent. And you won't send bad talent if you actually know your talent. There's a lot of agencies that will send people because when they put it into their computer, this name comes up, Robert Cochran, 30 to 40 years old, actor. Can they tell what movies you've done? Do they know if you've done any theater? Do they know if you've had any training? No. Yeah. They don't know their talent. And they don't know their talent because they're literally representing hundreds, if not thousands of people.
So this brings up an interesting point, and Jeremy, I know we've spoken about this, but I forget if you have background information on this. If you don't, let me know. The breakdown services, do you remember us discussing those before out there in Los Angeles about how that came about historically and why they're there? Oh, Jeremy, you there? Oh, I may have lost Jeremy. Okay. Well, Phil, I know you know the history of the breakdown services. Keith, you know a little about them?
Absolutely. Gary Marsh, the whole deal.
There you go. So bring our listening audience up to date with the reason for the breakdown services. And,
okay. Breakdowns. A breakdown is basically the list of cast that is needed for a particular project. It came about back in the 70s. A guy named Gary Marsh went around to all the studios and he'd get their scripts and by hand would read the scripts and figure out how many just write down the characters, a couple of traits that the characters have, their age, whatever, and send them out to the casting directors. and he developed this into a service. I think it started sometime in the mid-'70s, and now everyone just goes to him, and they're pre-sent to him, and you have to subscribe to the agents subscribe to the service, and they don't let just any agent subscribe to the service. They do a thorough background check to make sure they're SAG franchised, they're legitimate, so that just Keith Lyle doesn't just show up, say he's an agent, and starts getting these breakdowns and submitting himself and all his friends.
Lyle.
Right,
No
especially not him, because he is one of those bad actors that will hang on to those things.
We've all heard of him.
Yeah, he's the worst. So it's developed into a pretty big thing, and I think he does a self-submission service called Actors
Access?
Actors Access, correct. Yeah, which is, if you're an actor in town, it might be a good thing to be a member of, Showfax and Actors Access. Right. But I don't know if any of the agencies here in Las Vegas, actually get those, to tell you the truth, because it doesn't seem, as an actor in town, that I've ever really been submitted for any of those projects.
What's your take on that, Phil? What do the agencies know, or do they know about the breakdown services and why they're in existence?
Well, they know about them. Lens is the only agency I know that actually uses and will ask you to submit either to Actors Access. I believe Remington does it as well. The SAG franchise agencies do. A lot of agents don't know if they want to invest the money because we're coming in that catch-22 situation where they're like, this production's coming out of L.A., they're going to bring their own actors, they're only going to call us for principal role or for extra roles and things like that, so they stick more with the local work that comes in. What you had brought up before, Robert, when you had said, your agent in L.A. would get a breakdown or whatever and then start negotiating a rate for you, which right. I would say 99, if not 100% of the time here, they will just offer you a rate based on the rate that was offered to them from the production company. There's no negotiation going on whatsoever.
No, the idea is you should be thankful to be getting it. I had one experience here early on. The first agency I signed with was with Best when I got here. And again, I didn't know anybody. I just came into town, and there was something about being Caesar at Caesar's Palace. I was dealing 21. I was just here on a lark. I didn't know what I was doing. So I went over there. Had a good experience meeting everybody, got the job as Caesar. That was fun, and it was pretty funny. Actually, I took it seriously, and I brushed up on reading the Shakespeare Caesar, and everyone's like, what are you...
See, actors do that.
I know. They thought it was really strange, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I had a whole soliloquy ready. But they one agent there at the time who went on to form an agency, which I don't think is here anymore, was Carla de Blasi, I think her name was. And I walked in one time. I was doing something as an actor, which I would recommend in terms of, at least this was something I did in L.A. to get known. I'd bring cookies. I would make myself known. I'd show up every week or two just to say hi, not just for my headshots and what can you do for me, but here's some cookies. Thanks for you. Butter the door. Grease it up here so they remember you, because when it comes up and they want to put your name on top, well, I walked in one time, and I caught her on the phone talking to somebody and she was saying, no, you need to see Robert Cochran, and here's why. And I said, that's my agent. Mm-hmm. See, that's what an agent can and will do when you have a relationship. But without all these elements we're talking about, we don't have that situation anymore. We end up with this huge shotgun style, and there's just mass confusion. So it sounds to me like there's a couple key entry points. Do you remember when I was trying to start the breakdown service back in 2004?
Mm-hmm. I do.
It was. Now, it was Las Vegas Link, and we heard from Gary Marsh at one point threatening to sue us because we were close to, he felt, infringing. I think he has the link,
right? And
he felt we were infringing. And I acknowledged his email, said I'm in receipt of your email, and let us know if there's anything further. And he never actually sued us,
no.
But he does what he does very well, and actually has made the studio system, the Hollywood system, work much better. So yes. A lot of credit due to him. Trying to do that in a similar fashion out here, though, most of the agencies really balk. They didn't understand my business plan, and fair to them, I didn't understand my business plan. I knew what I wanted as an end result. I didn't know how I wanted to get there. They were all terrified at the time that I was going to be charging them. And I said, look, I'm going into business for 1 year was my plan, with charging nobody anything. I'm just going to work for free, just to build up so you know who I am, and trying to work with these different agencies and show them, and actors, and show them who I was. And try as I may, Linda Lang was the one agent who felt this was a pretty good idea. Several other agents did not, and told me why they didn't think it was going to work, and really had some battles back and forth. And the thing is, it became a confrontational thing, and I don't think we're going to solve this problem by finger pointing and becoming confrontational. Somehow, Mary had this point last week, was we need to get everybody to the table. How do you think we can get, in a reasonable manner, everyone to the table so this gets discussed in a way that we show this is good for everybody?
Well, I'll tell you what you do. You give all the agency owners in town, you send them a little thing that says, "You've won a yacht," and get them all to show up at a place, and then tell them.
Yeah. I think the cookies are a good idea. Maybe the cookie thing will work.
I do make good cookies, and good Rice Krispie treats were always a favorite.
There's something that I'm going to try. One of my business partners, L.J. Jellison, who's a performer in Zumanity, who's also trying to break in on the other side. And I've been helping him. He's been helping me with casting, and I've been helping him with things. He wants to try this. He wants to do a website that has all of the really good actors, dancers, singers, celebrity lookalikes, whatever it is, in town. But these are all people who really do have their stuff together. They have legitimate credits, legitimate training. They have demo reels. So what happens is if I get a call from a casting director saying, we're casting for, McDonald's commercial, whatever it is, here's what we're looking for, I can say, okay, I'm going to put this out to the agencies. In the meantime, if you want to go to the website and click on actors, male, 30 to 40, whatever your breakdown is, you will see demo reels pop up. You will see names and pictures pop up of guys that fit that. If you want to look at their demo reels, if there's anybody there that you like, just let me know.
I'll make sure that exclusivity, that we're going to run into the same problem, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to force that issue because if I can get all of the best actors to come to this website, then this website becomes, and it's going to be free, like you did. This website's going to be the place to be because I get a lot of national stuff.
Okay.
What I do, the first thing that I do when it comes to the agencies, one, most of the agencies I don't even call because I can't. They're representing the same talent. If I call 30 agencies, I'm going to get literally 500 submissions.
Absolutely.
Number one, the production company doesn't want to see 500 people.
No.
Sometimes they only want to see 20. So I will call a few agencies, 2 or 3. Other agencies will call me and say, how come you didn't call me? Because I can't. Because you're representing the same talent.
Well, now let me ask this then. Then deciding who gets who and how we encourage, ultimately, it's the actors who have to decide to go exclusive. How do we get that message out? How do we encourage actors who, from an actor's perspective, say, well, look, if I go exclusive, I'm going to be out of a gig over here. How do we encourage actors?
I'm thinking that if I'm getting the national stuff or the high-paying stuff, and the way that you get that national stuff is that you're on this website, which doesn't cost anything, but you have to qualify for it. And it doesn't exclude any agencies. If an agent is with, I don't care what agency you're with, then that's your agent.
Okay, so that's declared on the site. So this is different than we had Lear's book a year before.
Right. Sounds like the Players Directory, a lot like the Players Directory.
It is like, the AFI, the Players Directory idea. Is that kind of similar? Is that the model?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And they won't be able to have direct access to the talent. They can either get them through me or through the agent that's
So no contact
listed.
info, just here's the agent, and you contact me.
But their resume is there. And these are a lot of things. Look, it'd be great if the agents had this. If they had the picture and the demo reel and your resume, that'd be great because then the client would have all the information he would need to at least, call you. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll look at your demo reel and go, you know what, Robert doesn't have to come to the audition, send him directly to the callback.
Right.
Which would be great. If that becomes the place to go for the high-paying stuff, and the agencies or the actors know, in order for me to be in this elite group, if you want to call it that, I have to fit certain criteria.
Right, which you're setting up. Keith, you wanted to add something?
I was going to say that I know that in L.A. a lot of the casting directors, it'll say right in the breakdown, do not double submit, or if you don't have an exclusive person, if you got someone where they say in the pocket or in the hip pocket or whatever, don't submit them. because they don't want to see the same thing twice. They throw right out. Double submissions, I think it says right in the breakdown, double submissions will be thrown out.
Right. So what this requires, what it sounds like you're building right now, Phil, you're a gatekeeper. You're becoming this new gatekeeper for us, which in the past we've had Barbara Lauren has done her thing, and I forget the name of the other gentleman who was here back in the mid-2000s. He cast the CSI things occasionally. He didn't cast very often. You know who I'm speaking of?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of his name.
That's okay. There was another cast. Basically, they were the two in town. Is Barbara still casting?
Barbara still casts every now and then.
Okay. So, but you're making it your full-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's somewhat of a different approach, I think, to be able, because number one, it declares a level of professionalism that outside production companies can identify with. Oh, here's a casting director who's doing this full-time. And number two, you set up criteria that they can relate to, that they can say, okay, so you've solved that double, triple, quadruple submission thing for me. You've solved the exclusive issue in terms of agencies, and you've solved the streamlining process. So I'm seeing, actors that have fit a basic level. So this seems to be based on your reputation and what you're doing with these production companies. If they buy into you, then this could be something that opens up this opportunity.
Well, yeah, because I don't need a lot of agencies, because you look at the size of L.A. There's probably thousands of agents in L.A. Now, if you're going to audition for a national commercial, you're not going to call 1,000. You're not going to call 100.
No.
You're going to call a handful.
Right.
If I had a handful of agents, if I had 3, 4, 5 agents that were part of this particular idea, as far as from L.A. and New York standards, that's enough.
But see, and here's the thing that I think one of the things that maybe makes the agencies nervous, some of the feedback I got then, and perhaps this could streamline the process, the agencies don't make their big money right now on TV and film. That's just not, convention work and modeling is where it's at, which is fine. That's frankly not what I'm interested in regulating. If that had to come across and that would be something else, I'd rather keep that off right now. What I'm interested in terms of bringing in this business we're talking about, is the TV and film departments. Now, something agencies have in other professional cities is specific departments that do specific things. So if these handful of agencies, as you mentioned, had these actors and it was streamlined to what they did, it would seem this again would, because the same complaints come from the agent. They don't want to be calling every single actor, just like you don't want to be calling every single agent. And actors don't want to be getting 12 different emails and going, who do I like this week? So this seems to, once again, as we said from the beginning, streamline everyone's process. Now, the potential problem in here is that, and this is not to criticize you, Phil, but you are the gatekeeper here. So It's on your shoulders, and you've built a good reputation in 17 years here. You've seen a lot of different things, but this becomes a sink or swim on you. And will the agencies trust you, do you think?
Well, I think the agencies will trust me the same way the production companies trust me. The reason that I get to cast principal roles, we just did the Monte Carlo commercial, and we took a lot of talent. Well, not a lot of talent. We took a lot of roles away from L.A. They were expecting that they were going to get a couple of people here from Vegas just so they wouldn't have to listen to, you're always bringing talent from L.A. But for the most part, they had already held their auditions in L.A., and they came here, and of course I said to them, you're not going to see 100 people. You'll see, 5 or 6 people in each category. But all they saw was good people. And with the exception of maybe 2 roles, everybody that was hired from Vegas. They're willing to do that. They don't want to go through 400 people to find those 10 people, That's one thing. And what they also don't want, which we can talk about, is they don't want the fighting over one person getting this much money, another person getting this much money, and that became the nightmare of the Monte Carlo commercial that we just did.
So where does that start in terms of stemming that? I mean, part of it, I think, has to go to an education process to the actors to understand how payments work. That, again, it's not a problem necessarily that people make different amounts, but it has to be based on, this is transparency, basically. This is what the production company offered. Now, if you have an agent who's doing his or her due diligence, perhaps they've negotiated for more. But you should be able to see as an actor, here's what the production company offered.
Exactly. The contract between the client and the talent shouldn't be on the talent's need-to-know basis. Like, the agent shouldn't be in the middle going, look, it's none of your business, Robert, how much the client's paying for you.
Which is a direct quote I've heard. I don't know. Have you heard that one before?
No,
You've
I
probably
wouldn't.
heard it
I wouldn't
before.
tolerate it.
Yeah. Well, it certainly is said. I'm sorry, Phil. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the one thing that I do, which unfortunately I have to do, is whenever I hold auditions, everyone in a certain category that's coming in will come in. All the people from Lang will come in at one time, all the people from another agency, and they're sectioned off by agency. And the production company asked me why I do that, and I go, because some agencies are, as we've all heard the phrase, double dipping. Mm-hmm. I don't want them to be in the waiting room and one person says, you're getting $1,000? I was quoted $640.
So this is a partitioning, almost like a preschool or something you have to do in order because of the way things are set up. That's insane.
Right. Now, that doesn't mean that that's not going to happen on set, which on the Monte Carlo commercial it did. You know,
Wow.
What happened was the client, as they always do, because they mostly do SAG commercials, the client said, we're going to have you fill out time cards. And all the agents were like, whatever. Except for one agency who went, what do you mean, whoa, what are you talking about time cards? What's going to be on this time card? Well, the client puts down the rate. Mm-hmm. This is how much you're being paid. Well, that blew up in their face because all of a sudden somebody said, what are you talking about? This says $1,000. I'm not getting $1,000. I was quoted some other price or whatever. I personally don't care what the talent and the agent have agreed to. I don't care if the agent says, I'm taking 50%. If the talent agrees to it, that's fine.
But that's the point, is the transparency of,
right.
Here's what everyone has to see the offer. You have to start from that point. Yeah, if you agree to it, that's the problem. I recently had an issue, I think you're both aware of, with an agency where there was an amount that was agreed to contractually, and the amount, when I got to the set, it was shown to me that the percentage that I agreed to be taken out was given on top. And this is getting back to the double dipping issue. That to me, in situations in the past with agencies I've worked with here in town especially, would be, okay, we're getting our money on top, so of course you're getting the full amount. And in this case, the agency not only didn't do that, but they took a severe amount more than the contract did, as almost as if to punish me because I had the audacity to tell this agency that I knew what was going on. And it ended up in small claims, and I won the settlement, but that most actors, I don't think, are going to feel empowered enough to fight an agency because they're so scared to get blackballed.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so that's my point, going back to the regulation about the need for the transparency. And it's not calling out every agent, because another agent in this same opportunity, and I should mention Linda Lang was invited on the show today, and I haven't heard from her yet. She may come later, as well as representatives from Lens, Rich Weber, and who was it?
Jane Crashen.
Jane, also, she recommended Rich. Rich wasn't available. And then also... what's her name? Rochelle, who, yes, is also starting another agency. I'm going to have to take a break here in just a moment, just to do station ID, but I want to pick this up in regard to, again, getting back to the trust factor between the agents and the talent themselves, because I think this is a relationship issue. It's almost like I feel like it's a little bit like Dr. Phil doing this. But let's get back to this in just a moment. You're listening to KUNV HD2.
KUNV HD2 Las Vegas.
This is member-supported KUNV HD2 Las Vegas, the broadcast service of UNLV. You're listening to Nobody Knows Hollywood. My name is Robert Cochran, your host here every Tuesday afternoon from 4 to 5 p.m. Joined in studio today by Keith Lyle, actor, and by Phil Valentine, casting director here in Las Vegas. We were speaking a moment ago about, a lot of things, but in particular about the relationship problem between actors and agencies and how we might go about bringing parties to the table. I jokingly said I feel a bit like Dr. Phil, but that almost is somewhat is what is going on. I'm in somewhat of a unique position like you are, Phil, to where we've done enough work, and it's no longer my primary source of income. That's how I could have the courage to go ahead and stand up to an agency, knowing that I'm blackballed from that agency and whatever else they might say to other agencies. And I say it is what it is, and hopefully now I'm encouraged by the fact that you're a casting director. Maybe I could find an agent that I could work with once again. That's nice to hear. But going back to that idea of trust, do we need, for the talent agent's sake, do we need a breakdown service so they feel we're all getting the same things? Again, let them have. I think if we cut away the modeling convention stuff, I think we solve a lot of this problem. But if we have a breakdown service, and I don't know if it is through your friend's site or someone else to do that, I don't see me dipping back into that. But so that these agencies go, okay, now we know we're all getting the same stuff, because they want to know they're on the same table too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it would. I don't know at this point. Vegas is kind of interesting and strange in that I will get castings that just sort of come. I don't actively search them out; they find me, which I've been happy to be able to do that and be successful at it. I'm sure I could find more if I did. I like working with people like Jeremy Settles, who sometimes is doing a movie, or Sean Jackson or someone like that, independent filmmaker, or Chris Hood, Robin Hood Films, who don't have a lot of money to pay actors. But it's really nice to keep actors working because, a couple of years ago I actually got to play a role in a movie where I killed somebody and then I died at the end. Well, we all dream of that, and there's very few of us that actually get to die in a movie. And the only way that's going to happen for actors is you're going to have to find an independent film where, somebody wants to kill you or you get to kill somebody.
But this is building up reels as a Las Vegas actor, too.
Exactly. There's an importance in that. I'm very happy to offer my casting services for free to independent filmmakers. Not just because I'm trying to help an independent filmmaker, but I'm trying to help actors to become more marketable.
Right.
Because it's very hard to build. You came with a certain reputation and experience and training, as did I. There's lots of people who are starting here, trying to find a film to get in or whatever. And if you're waiting for the big Hollywood movies or whatever, you could be 50 or 60 years old.
Well, Keith was like that acting wasn't his thing necessarily. No. That, he's been a dealer at the Venetian for, over a decade now?
Yeah, about 10 years.
And that this opportunity uniquely came through The Hangover. He did a great job, had a great time. We were working together at the Second City at the time, loving that. So he was already seeing the comedy angle of things, but then wanted to work in. Have you done some independents here since then?
Yeah, I actually worked with Jeremy on a movie he produced. It was called
Red
The
Herring?
Gambler.
Oh, The Gambler. Okay.
I did The Gambler with him. That was great. I started doing improv, and one of the other improvisers said, hey, you might want to see my agents. They're always looking for people who know how to work as a dealer in different commercials and films and stuff. And the second audition, I ended up with The Hangover, and at the time I was doing improv, but I was doing improvisational comedy, which is great acting and great training, but I really wanted to be a stand-up comic, and I was just starting to work my way into it. So I had this plan. Now, this kind of put me in a hurry. You better learn the acting angle in a hurry and learn the business in a hurry. They were trying to get a hold of me at one time to get me to go to Burbank to do some pickup shots, just basically pay me an extra day so they could add to my residuals. So they contacted me directly, and after that, I was actually in Burbank and called my agent and said, oh, by the way, I'm in Burbank, so when they send you the check, you'll know why what it's for.
How did they take that?
Oh, that's great.
Oh, okay, so she was casual.
She was like, yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for telling me I'm going to get a check.
Yeah, no, interesting. I mean, there are agents who would flip out, and I think actually rightfully so on their part, because you shouldn't be getting contacted directly.
Well, my understanding was I think they tried to contact her and didn't get a response in a quick enough manner. So
and
they're
so
like,
they had you and said,
we know Keith, he's a good guy, we like him. We'll contact, I had built a relationship with the production people at that point and the production people from The Hangover really enjoyed themselves here. They had,
it looked like it.
They had a big cast and crew party. They had a big, DVD release party was at Caesar's Pure. They had a 2-night deal. It was really, I mean, they really enjoyed themselves here.
And they should. And that's one of the things that drives me crazy, that Las Vegas has a worldwide reputation, and we have all these rooms, and we have much more in terms of physical locations than people have dreamed of. The Nevada Film Office has done a good job with their site, and I think there could even be more done to entice filmmakers to look here. One of the things, of course, was talked about in last legislative session was tax breaks. And those are the two things, actually, in talking to Ed Saxon, producer from Silence of the Lambs, that he said he wanted to see. He said to come back out here. He said, look, I love Las Vegas. It's a close enough flight to where I could commute. You know, these people who have these private jets. Yeah, right? It's in and out, 45 minutes. So they talk about that. They want to see the tax breaks, and they said they want to see basically that promise of come with a toothbrush come true. And from his direct side, he was speaking of crew, but I know in the fold he also meant actors, because he's a producer, and as you know, as a producer, Phil has produced some works. We always have our eyes on the bottom line. They're looking to save money any way possible, and as you mentioned, Keith, I want to make sure I'm not giving myself a headache. There are built-in headaches to film production. Actors who only act don't get that. They don't understand where film producers are coming from. They'd love it if we made their life easier, but it's up to us to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we need to do, when people from New York and LA look at Vegas, they look at this giant swamp of a lot of extras and some bikini models and actors, and what we need to do to get them to be attracted to us is to get that cream to rise to the top. We have got to get those actors, start with those actors who are really good. And Keith said something that, really inspires me whenever an actor says he has a plan, because I've never met a successful actor that didn't have a plan. I've never met a successful person that didn't have a plan.
Exactly.
I know a lot of actors in this town who do not have a plan. They're just waiting for someone to hand them a career. So having a career, if we could, and that's what the website that I'm trying to create is for, it's to separate those good people. And then, in turn of doing that, it shows everyone else what it takes to be successful. If I'm going to be successful, I have to have everything that these people have. They have a demo reel. They've taken some really good training. They're really good actors. The production companies come in and they go, look, there's this one website. Everybody on the website is good. That's all they want. I don't care if
change the brand. We have to rebrand Las Vegas, basically.
Right. I think the agencies will go for Phil as a gatekeeper because there's money involved in that. They'll be able to make money off it, and they're carrying all these hundreds of actors that get them no work, and that's why the actors are signed up with all the different agencies, because if this one doesn't submit me, then this one will submit me, then this one will submit me, then this one will submit me. So that's where they're coming from. If I'm not top of the list on this one, then maybe I'll be up there on this. So that's from the actor's mentality. That's what's going on. They don't realize that doesn't help. It's not like a modeling agency where you could sign up, the same thing with the models. Oh, this one gets this convention, this one gets this convention. So that's where the calls come from. This is a different story. This is acting. This is production work. This is a serious business.
Well, and it's acting at a certain level. I think we need to separate that too, because what you're talking about, Phil, is you're talking about if they're not union, they're certainly big buyout type of jobs. Yeah. So we're not talking about, and no disrespect to the local ads, that's fine. You get your $200 to $500. That's okay. But that's not where the money's at, and I think that's where a lot of agencies in the past have gone, look, I'm not really interested in this. This is why I shotgun this style. Big money with residual and union jobs or these larger buyout jobs are available if it's presented in the correct fashion. And so here's the thing, I think, and this is basically what you were saying, is if that you can, this is kind of your field of dreams moment, Phil. If you can build it, if you can make people see that you're bringing in these jobs based on your reputation and your trust, the agencies perhaps begin to fall in line. The actors, I don't think, are going to have a problem falling in line based on the pitch that you've given me. If this website is what it is to be, it'll be no problem getting the cream to rise to the top. You'll be just using a large filter because, as you mentioned, it's probably a 5 to 10% game. But once you've done that, there will be people fighting to get in once they see it.
That's what's going to happen. The actors will be behind it until they're not in it. You didn't make like it. They're like,
That's good. Competition's a very good thing.
Competition's good. When you go to LA, it doesn't take you very long to figure out how to play the game in that town. And if you don't play the game the way it's supposed to be played in that town, you get nowhere.
Right.
So that's what it needs to be. Now, look, there's lots of actors in LA who they don't go to auditions every day. The auditions they go to are legitimate and they're good, but in the meantime, they've got to figure out a way to make a living. So if these guys want to do conventions, which we have all day long, that's a great opportunity here in Vegas that LA doesn't have. LA doesn't have a convention every single day. LA doesn't have Caesar walking around, Elvis Presley impersonators, all the other opportunities that there are here.
Yeah.
So if there's going to be agencies for that, and they want to have one agency to do conventions and another agency to do acting, that's fine. If that's part of their plan, it's a good plan. You know, if they want to do promotional stuff, whatever, have a plan. All I want to do is I want to inspire production companies to come here because there is a place to go, and it's not agency exclusive, that has all of the best actors where you don't have to go trotting through this swamp of people. The SAG rep has the same problem because most of the SAG actors in this town are professional extras.
Yes.
That's how they got to be SAG. They're not, I'm not going to say they're not really actors, but I will say they don't have any professional training. They haven't done any speaking roles.
It's a different category of actors.
It's a different category.
Yeah, extras are very essential, and you're right. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different category.
Right. Well, so when production companies do a SAG audition here, and you send them 300 people, 280 of them have only been extras, that's very frustrating for them.
Absolutely.
Well,
and that's time.
That
costs money for them.
Well, I can imagine because I go on auditions and everything on my resume is legitimate. Not all of it's great stuff. A lot of it's, some of it's student films or independent work that they may not have heard of, but there's always, the Hangover in there. But then I see these other actors who, if you look at their resume, they were in the Hangover, and I'm like, I don't remember them, and they're in this and they're in that, and it's all their extra work, and it's like, well, someone's got to be able to see through this.
That's again the filtering process that needs to happen, because that's exactly right. When I did Lucky Quarter years ago, the Stephen King film, I can't tell you how many people have that on their resume, and I only have about 4 actors in the film,
exactly.
And yet I get these people who say they were cast or crew in that, and I go, I directed and wrote that, and I don't remember you at all.
And you know what? As a casting director, starring in a student film, to me, is like being the CEO of a small company. You're still the CEO.
Yeah, that's right.
You're still doing the job. So to move you into the lead of a union film or even a bigger production film, that's a lateral movement. That's not a step up. You're a lead actor, like Robert is a good leading actor. It could be a student film. It could be a non-union. It could be he comes with his talent. He comes with his tools. And going from starring in a student film to starring in a major production is a lateral movement. It's not like all of a sudden you're getting a big break and doing anything differently than you were doing. You're just using your acting skills. Just getting paid a lot more is really the difference.
Well, and we can bring that forward to something I'll bring into studio maybe next week as I work with the film department here at UNLV, and we do have a good film department. And, one of the democratizing forces, as you know as a filmmaker, has been technology, and that the quality of what students can make now looks good. It used to be that if you did student films, you'd be like, this looks kind of like a student film. Now they're shooting at such a high level that you go, my God, this looks pro. And it's not that, they're not skilled, they weren't skilled before, but the tools have just become available. Shooting 35 was out of most people's reach. Sure. Shooting with a 7D is in most people's reach. And the image quality you can get from something like that, from a $2,000, DSLR, is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Or even these GoPros. I can't believe the image quality you get from a $300 camera. I see Oprah using them in her shows. So it's really a great opportunity in terms of the look, and we have the great field of Las Vegas itself. I love to hear people working with independent and student filmmakers as well, because this isn't just about growing the actors. This is about growing the community. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's been one of Jeremy's things, and I'm sorry to have lost him. I'll bring him in studio another time. That one of his big missions, and one of the reasons we've teamed up for all these years, was to grow the business of Las Vegas, the entertainment business. People want to be here, but there's a disconnect. We had a good conversation with a director from The Stand, Mick Garris, who's done several things with Stephen King. We met with him out in L.A. about a year and a half ago, and he had the same story you hear time and again. He said, well, I just didn't feel I was treated very well in Las Vegas. That the union guys there they weren't up to par with what I was used to, and that there were people trying to undercut and do shady things, and it's like this is what regulation. It doesn't make it perfect, but at least it gives people somewhere to go. And this is where it shows the outside community that we're ready to take this seriously. That agencies are not only regulated for babysitting, I think, or is what's on the books now. Employment agencies very loosely based, but that we show California with hopefully potentially tax breaks, regulation, a site like what you're talking about, Phil, and that says I think we're ready to play ball. I think that really does.
Well, that'd be what it takes. I mean, it's not hard to look at what. Maybe not to the size of L.A. or New York, but it's easy to see what they do in Chicago, for instance. That's another hub where they make a lot of commercials, a lot of stuff. What are they doing? How are they doing it right? There's, what's New Mexico doing? That's where all the productions are going. I know it's tax breaks, but what are they doing to get it right?
I worked in Denver for a season, for about 6 months, and there was 2 agencies in town, and they were great. They ran like the ones in L.A., and part of the thing was they didn't have 14 agencies like you're talking about fighting. They had 2 agencies. They were SAG franchise, and that was what the market would bear. So maybe this is about paring down, if there are agencies, I'm not saying they shouldn't exist, but they should exist for what they are in reality, not for agencies at the level, these fly-by-night agencies shouldn't be submitting for SAG jobs.
Right.
So we're running short on time. I wanted to say thank you guys so much for being in studio here today. And Phil, as soon as you get that site, I'm assuming it's not up and operational just yet?
It's pretty close. We talked to 2 agencies because that's where we want to start, and probably at maybe 10 or 12 actors, just so people can look at it and get it.
Great.
And then we'll start taking submissions, like I said, from lots of other actors. Agencies can submit, as long as the people are good. That's important.
Wonderful. Well, we'll send me the link, and I will link it up to our site, NK Hollywood. Nobody knows Hollywood. And Keith, I promised you a plug. Where are you going up next?
The big show is a big showcase at Improv at Harrah's, Sunday, April 1st at 8:30. I'm one of the 6 finalists for the Improv Up Yours Next Big Thing competition.
That's excellent.
Yes.
Your voice just went up a half octave when you did your plug there. You have your announcer voice.
Yes, because it's radio.
That's great. Well, gentlemen, again, thank you. It's been a very productive and fun hour, and I'm sure we'll do this again, be seeing you around soon. You've been listening to Nobody Knows Hollywood on member-supported KUNV HD2 Las Vegas, the broadcast service of UNLV.
This is KUNV HD2 Las Vegas, the broadcast service of UNLV.